Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MyFootballWriter podcast. Freddie isn't here today, so again, I'm steering the ship. Unfortunately, guys, you've got to cancel your coach tickets and your hotel in Wembley because the cup dream has died before it even started. Before we dissect the thrashing by Brighton in the FA Cup, I'm here with Will and Henry. Firstly, guys, how was your weekend, barring the FA Cup exit?
Well, I think you say about those coach tickets, mate. I already booked one in May last year, and I might have done it the week before the game against Brighton as well. So right now, I might be currently in debt, or maybe I might not be. Who knows? I'll let everyone decide that. But overall, I'm doing well. But I'm a bit scared, because you look at our next fixtures coming up, and I'm not really filled with too much confidence. I don't know about you, Henry. Are you 2 games and just overall in life?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'll be honest, you cut off there, so I didn't get the end of your sentence. But yeah, I'm absolutely fine. But no, I share your sentiment, Will. I'm very apprehensive, I'd say, about the next 2 games, especially. Sheffield United and Leeds have, I think, torn the Championship a new one this season. You've got a team who were in the Premier League last season versus a team who definitely will be in the Premier League next season in Leeds, in my opinion. So, yeah, 2 really tough games. Hopefully Norwich City can get through it. The FA Cup's behind us. Norwich City women have a 100% record as well, so everything's rosy.
Yeah, and we'll get on to the women's team in a little bit. We're going to just touch on the FA Cup a little bit, even though, like the title says, I think it's a feeling of who cares about the cup. And I asked on Twitter when was the last time that Norwich fans actually cared about the FA Cup. Resoundingly, it was either lockdown or 1991. So, yeah, it gives you a scale of how apathetic City fans have been towards this competition. But as we always say, every season, let's focus on the league. Yeah, I mean, the Brighton result itself, we slightly rotated the team. Obviously, one big change in goal that we all looked at and thought, we're probably going to lose this. And there's obviously a rhetoric generally about the gulf between the Championship and the Premier League being insurmountable as a result of some of the other FA Cup performances. I think it was West Brom that was beaten heavily by Bournemouth, I think. QPR were thrashed by Leicester, who looked seemingly hopeless in the Premier League. Do you guys believe that narrative of the gulf being too big, or should we actually have competed?
I think it's probably a bit of both. As you said there about Leicester, Southampton even got a win. I think they played Derby, I think it was, and they even got a win. And yeah, they look hopeless this season. They can't even buy a win. So I think the gap between the Premier League and the Championship has probably never been bigger, and that just shows in the form of Burnley and Sheffield United as well. You look at Sheffield United this season, and I think even maybe they may have surprised a few. Wilder coming back for his second spell, not necessarily guaranteed to work as well as it did the first time. Obviously had an awful season last season, finishing bottom, one of the worst Premier League teams of all time, come back down to the Championship, and you'd have thought that would have hit their confidence. It hasn't, and they've gone again. And I'll be shocked if Sheffield United aren't in the Premier League next season. So I think the gap couldn't be stronger. Obviously, you had upsets as well, like Plymouth beating Brentford. But I just think, that's the magic of the FA Cup. I know it's a cliche, but that is the magic of the FA Cup. If that was a truly competitive game, there'd only ever be one winner, and that's Brentford. This is a well-established Premier League team, and it's just one of those glory FA Cup results, I guess. But no, in terms of in terms of Norwich, it's a good indication of where we actually are as a team and just how far away we are from being like a team like Brighton, I guess. And, there's been a lot of discourse as well about sort of Brighton having money and sort of like they're not similar to Norwich in that sense because Tony Bloom's just put loads of money in. But for me, they're the model Premier League club in terms of the mid-table setup. They've had their humble beginnings in League One, where they almost went under. They didn't have a stadium, and now the fact that they do have that good stadium, and they're an established Premier League team, and with Brighton as well, what stands out for me is the fact that 90% of their signings are going to be good players. Whereas with Norwich, it can easily be 50-50, especially if we're in the Premier League. So they're, I think, the epitome of a well-run club. And yeah, it's just painful to see that, we could have been like that, but we're not. And it still probably looks a way off before we're in any position to realistically be like that again. So
yeah, that's quite sad what Henry just said there in terms of where, or how long it's actually could take us to be up to that level. But my feeling with it all really is it always feels like the Premier League to me. It feels like you've got 17 teams who are almost like robotic in a sense. They seem to do everything right. They're all so powerful. They're all so quick and mentally and physically as well. And even as well, you've got a lot of sides who are also fantastic technically. Look at Brighton. You would probably have to go now, I'd say 7 years ago when they had Chris Hughton in the Premier League, they had to have a couple of years of consolidation before they can now play their quite expansive nature of football. So it is quite a journey that that you actually have to go on to try and get to that level. But yeah, going back to my robotic point, it feels like there's like 17 robotic teams in there, plus Everton, plus 3 newly promoted championship teams who are just fighting for that one place or 17th place to try to stay up. It feels impossible. And as you said, Jack, Bournemouth beaten West Brom 5-1 is quite scary because I think West Brom are now 6th in the playoffs as well, albeit they haven't got a manager. But I personally think it's quite a worry about how stark the quality gap is between the two leagues, because you're seeing the likes of Ipswich, yellow card, here I come, but they spend about £150 million and they're obviously still in the bottom 3, albeit they'll probably argue and say, well, next year we've probably built a very, very good championship squad and one that could probably get in the top 2. But ultimately, it's just crazy amounts of money which are being spent. And although Norwich are, I would say, probably one of the biggest spenders in a championship, I don't think you get a club spending £6 million on one player in January in this league. So it's not like that Norwich aren't poor in this league. I still think there needs to be a bit of expectation now, because you're seeing £6 million potentially on Jurasek, obviously the money spent on Cernach, Forson, etc., etc. So there's a lot of money being spent on this squad. So although I feel like we still probably have to keep in mind the long term, as soon as that money keeps going up and it keeps increasing, then I think more questions will be asked. I know that is probably what I'm going to have to do to try and be competitive, to try and be a very, very good long-term Premier League club in the future. You have to have investment, no doubt, but it feels like we're so far away, despite spending about £50 million in the summer. Essentially, it's quite sad but scary.
Yeah, a lot of money spent on transfers, but also a lot of money spent on George Long's new contract as well. Let's not forget that. 3 years, is it? 3 years. I won't keep banging the George Long drum, but he just reminds me of Linda from the Traitors. You guys watching the Traitors?
I absolutely am. I love it.
Absolutely, yeah. Mate. Yeah.
Yeah. Is he not just Linda? He's somehow still there, performing terribly, completely blundering every second, yet still just getting away with it and still here. Big up Linda, big up George Long.
Maybe
tried.
George Long will be on billboards near you then.
I see what you've done there, Henry.
Campaign for it. Campaign for the George Long billboard.
I think this is so. After that statement, which Henry just said, I think it's perfect time for the first woke nonsense use of the day. If you have it available, please, Jack.
Oh, let me, for all of you non YouTube people, hang on, let me try and find.
There we go.
Yay! Utter woke nonsense. There we
I
go.
feel a bit sad flashing that now that Sean Dyche is gone.
Oh yeah, well, we've got a torrent version, so he's better than Deitch. We'll probably see Deitch in the championship sometime soon. Going back onto the agenda, getting away from Linda, going back to the topic of the selection. Obviously, a lot of people would have loved to have seen some youth players mixed within that starting 11, and not all of them were Will Grant. One of the big sort of question marks, especially after the game, was the selection of Nunez, who hobbled off. A player who has already had a hamstring injury this season, looks set to have a hamstring injury in the other leg. Absolutely fantastic. Do you think we should have perhaps rotated more and made ourselves liable to lose more heavily, or do you think we should have still put out a strong side and tried?
Do you go, Henry, or should I take this one?
I think it was one of those where we would have shot ourselves in the foot no matter what we would have done. I think realistically, JHT probably had to play Nunez with the injury to Slimani. But I don't think it helped at all. He is our key player, or one of our key players, and he needed to be rested. But we could, at the same time, we couldn't have afforded to have rested him as well. So it's a double-edged sword, and it does show the glaring error in this side, which is our squad depth. If we had a squad. If we had a decent squad depth for this level, I think a lot of our problems we had earlier on in the season probably would have been avoided. And it just shows that is an alarming issue that needs to be addressed, not just in this transfer window, but in the summer as well. Norwich City need to get to a point where they're signing players because they want to sign players, not signing players to replace other players who have departed. I don't necessarily think that's the way forward. And especially if you want to compete at championship level, you should be signing players because they add depth to the squad. And don't get me wrong, that is what Norwich City will do and what they'll believe that they'll do. But they're also doing it to replace those players. And, we're at the stage now where we've got rid of some of the dead wood, like Christian Fastnat. Like, I know he wasn't dead wood, but like Ashley Barnes as well. We now just need to bulk the squad out. We do, because, everyone, I think, would have named squad depth as a massive issue for Norwich City this season.
Yeah, I think it's very important to remember how good Brighton are, and I think if you have quite a weak midfield against them, that scoreline could have maybe got even worse. So it might have been 5-6-0, for example. So I think Nunez was probably one of our best players, obviously before his injury. Obviously as well, I also want to touch on Michael Force. So I thought he continued his good spell of form, really. But it's a very difficult one. I mean, hindsight is a great thing, right? Obviously, now knowing the facts in front of us, you wouldn't have risked him at all. But he's a player which gives you so much quality, and it's so obvious as well how valued he is at Norwich. Obviously, Nunez's contract is up in about 18 months' time as well. So whether Norwich decide to cash in on him this summer or keep him, obviously, I'll go for the latter. But the fact remains, he's a very important member of our side. And I saw a quote before the game saying that wanted to try and see where the club were in terms of on the pitch matters. And obviously, Brighton is a very, very obviously difficult opponent. But I think also as well, albeit maybe he wasn't expecting a 4-0 thrashing, and maybe that was quite an open experience to many people that say the Premier League is quite a difficult level. Of course it is, but I think he would have learned a lot about where the team is at, and obviously as well, as Henry alluded to, obviously squad depth is an issue, but then again, having the likes of Slimani, Forsyth, Sorensen all out, as well as McConaughey and the rest, that's what is quite is kind of quite big in midfield. It's just we've been very unlucky again. So it feels like as well, like our league position overall of 11th place, considering all these horrible injuries in terms of key players being missing here, there, and everywhere. Really, it feels like it's quite a respectable position for actually where we are. But definitely, I would have played him at the start of the game. I think he's one of our better players, and I think obviously Nunes playing would have given us a better chance of going through. There's no disputing that as well. And I think if Top maybe rested Nunes and Marcondes and didn't start Sargent as well, then I think maybe he might have got more criticism for that as well. So I think it's important to bear that in mind. But ultimately, Brighton are a good side. Top wanted to see where the club was at on the pitch, and unfortunately, Nunes got an injury. But I don't blame him for starting, because who else could he choose?
Could have put Caleb Anson in goal, or Archie Mayer. Maybe not Archie Mayer, or Captain Canary. Literally anyone else.
Well. All I'll say is, if the game went to penalties, I would definitely put Caleb Anson in goal, because he is an absolute monster at saying penalties. So that's what I would have done. But unfortunately, Norwich just weren't quite that good to reach 120 minutes in the game at a draw.
I was going to say, if it went to penalties, we'd get Hope Strauss on the pitch. She'd absolutely see us through to the fourth round. Yeah, Henry like that.
She would indeed. Yeah.
So obviously, you talked about a player who did start, a player who didn't start and won't start for another 5 matches. Is our lovely little spitting Spaniard, Borja Sainz. Obviously, in the last podcast, we kind of theorized whether the claims of him spitting were true or not. They're obviously definitely true, because he's definitely been banned. So I would like to rescind my comments about him just being like a llama. I echo what Henry said at the time, which was, if he has actually been found like accused of spitting, then that is disgusting. It's obviously not any behavior that you want to see from any of your players. But is there a weird silver lining to Borja Sainz being out for 6 matches, in the sense that he can have some time to think about his feelings and think about his form, but also maybe some teams won't want to sign him if he's got a really long ban? Is there, like, can we even spin this in a positive way, his punishment?
I think so. I think first of all, he's going to come back like he's on acid. I think he's going to be so determined to hit the ground running, and will contribute goals and assists, and he will be like a new signing. I think one of the reasons for that is because of how Torup treated the situation. He didn't pull his punches. He said that he'd let the side down. And with players like that, they might be quite difficult to manage, because they are big egos, and you don't necessarily want to get on their bad side. Whereas Torup just said, no, you've screwed up, basically. And the fact that Borja Sainz just put his hand up and apologized instantly, I think there is a little bit of respect there, I guess. But I still stand by it. He deserves every bit of criticism that he gets, whether that's from his manager or from the fans, because spitting is disgusting. And hopefully now this will set an example that behaviour like that isn't acceptable on the pitch. And I think if he truly has learned his lesson, then he'll only be a better player for it, and he'll also help Norwich City as well in the long run. And like I was saying in the last podcast, with him missing these 5 league games, when he comes back, touch wood, Josh Sargent should be fully fit and starting games regularly in the Championship. Add Marcelino Nunez into that equation as well, and Anis Ben Slimani into that occasion as well. And Norwich City could really mount a playoff charge towards the back end of this season, as we did last season. So I think it's not all doom and gloom when it's around Borja Sainz, but he's certainly not covered himself in any glory, has he?
No, I agree with everything that Henry's just said there, but I think Borja has got to realise now as well that people are realising how good he is and how he can create a moment out of nothing as well. So I think now his next step has to be as well mentally. He's got to be prepared that players might try and target him, try wind him up. Wind him up. That's it. That's what I was trying to say. But then again, we also had a situation last year. I think was against West Brom away, where I think Sires probably got sent off. I think he got 2 yellows, and one of those yellow cards was due to him. I think it was throwing the ball away or something like that as well. So I hope he's going to learn from this a bit more now. Obviously, he's got more time off, which hopefully will make him realise about the consequences of his actions. But I think overall as well, I don't think Sires was playing too well probably during the last month. I think at times as well, teams were obviously trying to target him, and that obviously led to, I think, more plans being made regarding him as well. I think teams were trying to get tighter to him and just trying to reduce him having the space and time on his right foot, and I think that's really important that Norwich have to realise that as well. I think maybe the introduction of Lewis Dobbin could be quite a nice thing for Norwich in the attacking area, just to try and freshen up a little bit. Albeit, I don't think Dobbin's probably got the same quality as what Sainz does. I think he had a decent performance against Brighton. Wasn't fantastic, but still quite decent as well. So not only do I think Sainz obviously should learn from this punishment, hopefully he does, but I also think as well from a team dynamic, hopefully it might freshen up a little bit as well, because we might now see maybe a front three at Sheffield United, maybe of Dobbin, Sargent and Cernach, or Dobbin, Sargent and Schwartau. I think Josh will probably start against Sheffield United as well, which would be quite a big boost for us. But I'll be very interested to see if our tactical plans, especially in attacking areas, actually change now. We've got Sargent back and maybe Cyrus not being here as well. Maybe we've got a bit more pace and directness as well. So, look, time will tell how Norwich are at the end of the month, but it could also be difficult, right? The team could also react negatively to this. Obviously, seeing Nunes as well also go down during the last game against Brighton as well. Maybe they might get a bit of a mental blip. Not seeing Sainz and Nunes in the team. Obviously, those guys have been so influential to us from an attacking sense as well. So I'll be very interested to see how Norwich bounce back from this mentally, and hopefully we still get the same amount of points as we did during the festive period. But I think due to the games against Leeds and Sheffield United being both very difficult games, as well as quite a hard game against Swansea at home, my levels of confidence aren't exactly too high for them, considering the amount of quality and match-winning moments that Sainz can produce.
And what I will say as well quickly is that I think what's been a real eye-opener in terms of the whole Borja Sainz thing is just the amount of whataboutery that actually goes on in football. You know, how many Norwich fans or football fans who watched the Sunderland game when Borja Sainz was being kicked all over the field. And if you're saying that as a direct result of Borja Sainz spitting at someone, then you're completely missing the point, because football is a contact sport. So having someone being targeted, whether you think it's morally correct or not, it is a tactic within the sport, and it's a completely valid it's a completely valid tactic for a contact sport. To then spit at someone is abhorrent, no matter what happens in the game. So I think the minority of Norwich fans who did sort of go, "Oh well, Sunderland fans should be ashamed" or whatever, I think that in itself is missing the point, to be honest. Because there's nothing that those Sunderland players could have done that warranted Borja Sainz spitting at them. So that's why I think I feel a bit passionate about Borja Sainz getting the correct punishment, because it is what he deserves, and that there is no excuse for that at all.
I wasn't one of those fans who said that. Don't look at the podcast last week. But I agree with you, Henry. I agree with you. I hope this is the last time this season that the FA come knocking to slap us on the wrists. And I think I did say before the start of this season that a player would be embroiled in a PR disaster. I think that was one of my hot takes and predictions. So it isn't quite on the scale of our South Korean striker doing something naughty. and Shane Duffy doing something naughty at the wheel of a car, allegedly, of course. But it's kind of along those lines. But so we have no signs. How are we going to replace him? Well, I'll tell you how we're going to replace him, guys. It's Durasec January. Or it might be pronounced Eurosec, to which point it's Eurosec January. I don't know. I've made that up. But anyway, the deal hasn't been completed yet. It feels like it's going to be completed very soon. 7 million euros, which I don't know what the conversion is on that. What was that, like 5 to 6 million British sterling pounds? That's quite a lot of money for Norwich to actually be forking out in the January transfer window. We haven't done that since Stephen Naismith and Tim Closer and Ivo Pinto. Oh, those were the days. So yes, a player who can play on the left, can play on the right. I think he's about 20 years old. If you want to know more information about him, there is a fantastic video by Freddie that you should watch and get all the juicy information about him. So check that out. I think I've made that joke before. I don't care. This is awful. I know, Will. It's terrible. What I want to know is, are you both excited? Obviously, the answer is yes, but how excited are you?
I think on the whole, I'm really excited because Slavia Prague are quite a respectable team in the Czech Republic. So the fact that we're getting one of those players and they're willing to come to a second division, I think speaks volumes. So yeah, really looking forward to him. And as well, I think he comes in and slots straight into that team with that pedigree. He definitely starts over Ono Hernandez. You could make a case to start him over Lewis Dobbin as well, although I did think Dobbin looked quite good. And with Cade Gordon going back, that's again one less person to fight over that position. So I think on the whole, yeah, he'll hopefully be tailor-made. But we've said that before about players like Stephen Naismith, who I'm pretty sure everyone when we signed him thought he was going to be a good signing. And yeah, so with Norwich, you sort of have to take it as a pinch of salt, but.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It feels like throughout the season so far, we have tried so many solutions at right wing or that inverted right wing slot, and no one has kind of really graphed it consistently. Obviously, there were some nice cameos and spells by Emmanuel Forsyth in that role, probably during November. Obviously, Oscar Schwartau as well has played well in parts in that position, Anthony Senach as well. But it feels like that position is there for someone to really grasp. We don't really have had that replacement, I think, especially since August. That Jonathan Rowe replacement, it feels like that right wing has been quite flat and a bit substandard. It almost feels like at times that Jack Stacey's probably been the most competent player on that right hand side, and he's a fullback. And I think our situations by a right-sided midfielder has been so imperative because, as I said, it feels like our first sub every game this season has been Jack Stacey, either at right wing or playing that as an overlapping fullback. So finally, it's great to have someone hopefully in the building soon. Obviously, that meant that Kate Gordon went back to obviously Liverpool, but I think Durasek, however you pronounce his name, is a player that excites me really. Obviously, hopefully, he should fit into Turok's system nicely. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bought him for such considerable money, but. It's very, very important, I think, to add as well that Norwich now buying players for fees around £5-6 million, even £10 million as well. It feels like, although it's really promising, and we all hope that in long term they can produce. To me as well, it feels like that those players have to produce in the short term as well, and it kind of still feels like we're waiting for Anthony Senach to kind of really start to produce again. Obviously, but. That could be next year, who knows? But it feels like if it's a situation where maybe Borja signs, Sarge and Angus Gunn, Nunes all go in the summer, then all of a sudden there is quite a lot of pressure on the likes of Eurosec and Cernach to really produce, really. So I'm just hoping that Cernach and obviously Eurosec can really hit the ground running soon because it feels like Norwich actually need them to, because otherwise, instead of maybe thinking that we could maybe mount a playoff push, it could actually go the other way, because those guys haven't got the experience of playing in English football. And as a fan base, I think you want some reassurance that there is quality there. And I think, obviously, if likes of Science, etc., all do go, and you're putting a lot of trust in overseas players who are very young, then it could get a bit messy. But I don't want to think like that just yet. But time will tell. But I do think it's very important to see some short-term output from Matej Jurasek, because he's a player that has quite a lot of caliber.
At the time of recording, it hasn't been confirmed, unless it has literally whilst we've been recording this. So this might all completely fall through and end up on my Twitter account. So who knows? But Mate, if you haven't signed yet and you want some convincing, Will can attest for this. There is no difference between Prague and Norwich. It's beautiful architecture, a lovely river, and the beers are delightful. So, there is literally, no difference between the capital of Czechia and Norwich. You should definitely come along. But you both mentioned, obviously, Cade Gordon being recalled by Liverpool. I think we all saw this coming. He made 10 appearances, 1 goal. I think that one was against Hull. And we all kind of thought after that Hull game that was our right wing solution. Bright young player from one of the biggest clubs in England, and then it just kind of didn't really work out. It just kind of fizzled. Where do you guys think it went wrong, and what were your thoughts on his loan overall?
I think, to be honest, it probably went wrong in terms of his ability. I don't think, if you're comparing him to Ono Hernandez, and sort of you see the both of them as the super sub, so to speak, naturally you go with Hernandez. You know what you're going to get. He's going to come on, he's going to run at defenses, and he's going to cause problems, especially as the game gets older and you get into the 80th minute and beyond. So instantly he's playing second fiddle there if he's not fancied in the starting lineup. I think his attitude was spot on. I think we saw that against Coventry, where the rumours were then that he was going to be recalled. Even as early as New Year's Day after the Luton game, and he was still passionate. You could tell that he really liked playing here, and I just think probably his ability wasn't up to probably where Liverpool expected it to be, and where I think Norwich expected it to be this season. And I think the Championship is still probably his level, but maybe slightly further down the table. I'd like to see what he does somewhere like Portsmouth, who are maybe fighting relegation. Maybe someone who needs a winger. Him and Josh Murphy could link up quite well, maybe. Who knows? But I think maybe he should take a bit more time to develop. But no, there is a player there, and if he keeps the attitude that he has, then hopefully he can go on and have a good career. I did feel quite sorry for Cade Gordon, and I think his attitude will be the thing that gets him over the line and will sort of turn him into a good player eventually.
Yeah, I just don't think for Cade especially, I think it was asking a lot for him to come back from quite a long injury and try and make an impact at quite an ambitious Championship club. I think obviously Top wanted to use him as that maybe one-on-one direct winger, that like different profile amongst the team. But I think due to Ono Hernandez's really, I say lovely performances, I think that has probably made him as a first choice sub that could try and create a bit of carnage and go one-on-one. So I think maybe, I think definitely at the start of the season, maybe during the end of the transfer window, maybe I would have said that Gordon is ahead of Hernandez in terms of where they are in the pecking order as such. But I just think, although Gordon did show plenty of endeavour and he tried to be quite a proactive winger as such, he just towards the end just started to look quite a bit lost about what roles he should be allocating at what times, and then I think his confidence kind of went a little bit as well. And I think Torp's system is such a unique one in the sense that players don't find it the most easy to kind of get to grips with, especially the younger players, as it kind of requires quite a lot. Obviously, we've seen that, especially for me recently as well, at academy level as well. So I think it was very difficult for him to really try and make an impact at Norwich. I think if he went to a club where he's allowed to be a bit more expressive and he can kind of move into different roles, that might be better. But it feels like with me, Norwich wanted Gordon to kind of be in these certain positions all the time, really. And I don't think we kind of gave them that bit of freedom to really express himself as such. So I think that is probably where it went wrong. I don't think he's the kind of player to be a very technically based player. I think he's one of those that wants to try and express himself, come deeper, and maybe take some players on. And I think if you give him more of like a role which requires more freedom, I think he might have flourished a bit more. But obviously, Tot wants players to kind of be kind of to be linked with his system and way of thinking. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case for Cade. But I definitely feel with this replacement of Mateo Jurasek, I feel like that's a player who seems to be more aligned into how JHC sees the game.
Yeah, and you said there that he looked lost, and you have got to bear in mind this is a lad who is only used to stepping on rakes and trying to kill Bart Simpson. So the fact that he's sort of having to learn football on the go, I do think was harsh.
Sideshow Cade. Yeah, I don't have a bad word to say about him. I thought he was a lovely lad. He just, yeah, I thought he'd kick on, but yeah, he's now back at Liverpool again. It's interesting to see where he goes. I even think someone at the top end of League One would be, would be a good destination for him. But we shall see. But
So it's
another
fair
player,
to say you don't think he'll slot into the Liverpool team.
Oh, that's a yellow card, surely. Yeah, I agree, Jack. Fantastic use of that picture there.
Utter joke nonsense, that is. Yeah, no,
so poor.
That is.
I had to do it.
Mr. Miller, I expect better from you. Anyway, from one player who was on loan to another player who was on loan, who's no longer on loan, who's now a permanent Norwich City player, is Anis Ben Slimani. Yay! We've signed him permanently, as we all pretty much knew that we were going to do, for about £1.5 million. Sheffield United didn't want anything to do with him. And, I think after this first half season, I think he's been all right. He's maybe not your cup of tea. Can you at least see some sort of crumb of, of positivity in the fact that this is a really good deal for the money and the profile of the player?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he gives us a different profile. He's got that bit of physical edge in the attacking third, where like he can muscle players off the ball and try and place some very good passes. I think his passing range is pretty good actually in terms of when he's firmly balanced and he's in quite a sort of position where no one's pressing him as such. But my only concern with Slimani is I don't think he makes our best team in the years to come. Personally, I'm not overly keen on his agileness on the ball under pressure. I think that does get a bit exploited at times, especially when teams look to press him. So I would question whether his level would be one of a potential Premier League club. But I think right now, when Norwich are at as a club, I think he just adds something different to what we're used to as such, really. Because I think Norwich as a club overall in many years as well. Maybe it's just me and how I'm used to a Norwich midfielder, but a Norwich midfielder to me always feels quite eloquent on the ball, very, very sharp and very, very clean at turning away from his man. And it feels like Slimani's a bit more rusty in that sense. And although he can be quite effective at times, he just doesn't fill me with confidence that he's overly secure in deep areas. I think he's more of I've heard a lot of people say that he's quite a physical number 6 midfielder. And I just don't get it whatsoever, really. I think he's more of a player who is probably better on the ball, but I just question his decision making and balance in those areas where Norwich are quite stretched. And due to how structured and how risky Trot's system can be at times, especially playing through those lines, then I just think that maybe we might see some mistakes from him. But then again, he's still 23. He seems to be quite a good vocal character amongst the group as well. And I think when you've got a lot of young players, especially, I think it's very important to have a few leaders in that group. And I think obviously if Angus Gunn can leave as well, or maybe Sargent and Borja, for example, if all those players are going to lead the club, and I think Norwich still need a bit of continuity there, and I think he provides that. And obviously he's seen JHC's style, obviously in the Danish league as well. So I'm pretty sure he has quite a good indication of what is required for his team. But I just don't think in the long term for Norwich to be a massive player for us in the future. But I think definitely as a squad option, he's a very, very good, reliable player, and he can add that bit of physicality in midfield. But I just question his decision making and reliability on the ball with deep areas. Say, for example, those difficult games against Sheffield United and Leeds away, for example, can he take the ball well under pressure and not give it away after a few sloppy touches? I'm not quite sure he can, but I could definitely see he's got great physical qualities as well. So, look, we'll see. Overall, I think it's a good sign for Norwich, but for me, I don't think he makes our strongest midfield lineup when obviously you've got Marcondes, Nunes, McKeon, etc. I don't think he makes that in a lineup, but quite a good age. So we'll see what he has to bring in the future.
Yeah, I think both of you have hit the nail on the head. I think in terms of looking at his, just solely looking at his output for Norwich City this season, I think 1.5 mil for someone who's 23 years old is a no-brainer. I think he improves our squad depth, which I've literally just banged on about the last 5 minutes. He improves that, so that's always a win. And as well, he looks like he's really happy here, so it's perfect for him to sort of kick the ground running and really kick on and develop now. I think what Will was saying was right. I think if all of our players are fit, he doesn't make our midfield. But Norwich have had injury problems this season. So basically he's guaranteed to play as well if he is fully fit, whether that's starting or off the bench, it doesn't really matter. He's almost guaranteed to play. What does surprise me is the Sheffield United fans' reaction to him. We had a Sheffield United fan on the scrimmage and he said he played 20 minutes against Brentford in the Premier League last season where he looked like he was a world beater. Other than that, he looked awful. And to be honest, I would not have said that about Slimani. Yes, he does have faults in his game, like his decision-making and his timing, etc., etc. But on the whole, I think he's been a really astute signing, and I am really pleased to see that you know his spell will be continuing at Norwich City beyond this season, because I think he's someone who we could call on if needs be as well. So yeah, I'm really happy with the Anis Ben Slimani signing, and I think in the short term it'll be good. Long term, I don't think as much. We've sort of balanced this podcast about sort of the feeling of a short-term success or long-term success, and he's very much, I think, in that short-term category. I don't think he'll probably see out his Norwich City contract. I might be wrong there, but I don't think he will do, especially if Norwich do make it into the Premier League in that time. But yeah, he's definitely someone who's proven to be quite reliable so far this season.
Yeah, and you know who we could have signed for $1.5 million? Paul Mullin. But there we go. You mentioned Sheffield United. Oh no, Henry, don't leave. No, please.
That's how I felt. Obviously, you're in control of the utter woke nonsense sign, but every time Paul Mullin mentioned, get that up.
Yeah,
there we go.
Okay. Yeah, I utter woke nonsense myself. That's fair. That's fair. William.
Yeah, I do want to add though, I think there's a worth Wrexham striker than Paul Mullin. He goes by the name of Stephen Fletcher, and I just think he's considerably worse. But whatever floats your boat, if you prefer Stephen Fletcher and he led your target man, then fair play to you. But I think he's a bit worse than Paul Mullin. Albeit I don't watch Wrexham religiously, but there's a good chance I'll probably be there next season on the opening day against them in the Championship. But I think Stephen Fletcher is surely worse than Paul Mullin, right?
2011 called. They want Stephen Fletcher back.
Very tempting, mate, but not for me, Clive, in 2024.
No, 2025 even. That's how in the
Yes,
future
very
we
good.
are.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. No, I will never forget Stephen Fletcher for palming the ball into the back of the net in that 2-2 against Sheffield Wednesday. The most obvious handball you've ever seen in your life, and it wasn't given. I don't know why he hasn't got a retrospective 6-match ban. Anyway, on to another club in the Steel City. Norwich themselves have the small matter of 2 away trips, yay, to Bramall Lane and Ellen Road to face Sheffield United and Leeds, 2 of the most formidable teams in the division so far this campaign, up against a Norwich side who are like headless chickens as soon as they leave Norfolk. We're unbeaten in the league in 2025. Do you see that good form continuing? Or is this just going to play out how we probably think it will?
I don't see that form continuing, mate. I don't think. Look, I think we'll go to Sheffield United and play well. I think we've seen the likes of Plymouth actually go there and have some success under Wayne Rooney's side. So I think there's definitely chances for Norwich to really impose themselves and produce a very, very good performance on the ball, especially in midfield. But I just worry about us from set pieces, and I think that obviously Bramall Lane crowd can obviously get quite vociferous when there's moments of the game where maybe they feel like their team is close to scoring. And I just think it'd be one of those games where Norwich play well, should get a count themselves, but ultimately lose 2-0. Unfortunately, that's the case. Obviously, Nunes will probably be a big topic coming into this game. Hopefully, he's fit, but it doesn't sound great. So then, who do you choose? Do you go for a bit more control of Schwartau in that midfield to replace him, or maybe do you go for a man called Forson and try to continue his really good run of form? I think maybe for me, I think going to these away grounds, I want to see a bit of control from Norwich, and I probably opt for Schwartau in that role. But Osvid, again, he's been quite decent in that right wing slot as well. So look, we'll see what happens. But I'm very interested to see how Norwich go about the game against Sheffield United. I think we'll try and impose our style of play. But I'll be very, very intrigued to know whether Norwich can try and form a good relationship with maybe Lewis Dobbin and Josh Sargent, because those players haven't played all much together really. They haven't played together much for Norwich. And I just think with that midfield maybe being a bit jumbled, and obviously Sargent, Dobbin still trying to maybe get to know one another, it could be quite rusty in the attacking third. So look, I don't see us creating much chances, but I think we'll probably go there, play decent, show some signs of control, but ultimately lose 2-0 probably due to a set-piece goal. Hopefully no Kiefer Moore goal, as I think he's absolutely dross. But look, we'll see. And then the Leeds game was just quite a scary thought, isn't it, really? Because I don't see Sargent starting both of those games, and I think he probably start against Sheffield United, probably. But who knows? I think that Leeds game is going to be a game where Norwich are going to have to show some great resilience. It's probably a free hit as well, especially if you've got no Nunes, Sargent, Stein starting. It just feels like quite a tough task for Norwich to go there and play well. But if Norwich go to both of those grounds and put in decent performances and they maybe don't come away with any points, I'll live with it, obviously. I think there's definitely a chance for Norwich to get some points against Sheffield United. I don't think they are as strong as what their league position says so. Obviously, they've got quite a few injuries as well to kind of maybe say that maybe they aren't in the right place as well. So I think that's just fair play to how Chris Wilder has done this season. But I think there's chances for Norwich to give Sheffield United a good game. But I think Leeds might be a stretch of money as they are so good at home. They're so controlled at home. And I think if Norwich are tasked with sitting in quite a condensed shape and playing quite conservatively against Leeds, and I think it might become a bit nasty. But hopefully not. Norwich haven't conceded too many shots at their goal this season as well. So that's what I'm quite confident about as well. I don't think we'll get absolutely peppered, maybe like we would have under David Wagner. But overall, I'm not positive, mate. But I think we could go there and play well.
Yeah, I think if we can come out of these 2 games unscathed, then that would be a near miracle, to be honest. I think it couldn't really get much tougher. Bramall Lane and Ellen Road, 2 of the most intimidating grounds in this league. I'd say the only other 2 that comes close are probably Sunderland and the other team in the Steel City. So, it's not exactly going to be easy for Norwich. And make no mistake, the scenes we saw in the FA Cup in terms of the crowd that Sheffield United got at Bramall Lane will be so much better in the league than it will be for the FA Cup third round, where basically no one was there. So that will be really intimidating. There is always a bit of needle whenever Sheffield United play Norwich, stemming back to that famous promotion season where both of us went on to secure promotion to the Premier League. And so that will still be in place both on the pitch and off the pitch, I think, as well. It will be a really tough game, but I agree with Will. I think if we are to take points from one of the games, it probably will be Sheffield United. I just look at Leeds and I just think, especially at Elland Road, they are so strong. And for me, they're the clear favourites to win the championship. So I think that one could almost be a free hit, like what Will was saying. But no, Sheffield United's the game that out of the two where I think we're most likely to get points. But I still think we probably will get no points from a possible 6 in our next two coming up. We need to focus on making Carrow Road a fortress and sort of similar to Bramall Lane, making it an intimidating place to come. Last season, we got into the playoffs, well, because of how good our home form was. We went the entire year unbeaten at home, which is insane, an entire calendar year. So, that shows how good a home form and how far having a good home form can get you. So Norwich need to get back to that and beat the teams they've got coming up at home. I think our next home game's Swansea, and that's such a winnable game. So yeah, we need to focus on that. But no, as for Sheffield United, there are weaknesses there for sure. But yeah, I'm not entirely confident.
Lots of positivity, everyone. I think for Leeds, they've got Byram in defence and Meslier in goal. We just need to attack down the left-hand side.
That is hideous, by the way. That is hideous.
We just need to pepper Leeds with shots.
Basically, yeah. We'll be all right. Before we conclude with our usual conclusion, because we have our respective academy and women's team expert here, we're going to do a little quick fire report. We'll start with Henry, who I believe the women's team had an absolutely stonking win on the weekend.
They did indeed. So they beat Ashford Town 7-0 at the Nest. Natasha Snelling scored a brace, and there were 4 other separate goal scorers. It means that Norwich City have a 100% record in the Women's National League Division 1 in 2025. They started the year in 8th, which for Norwich's standards were awful, but they're already back up to 4th and are 6 points off top spot. So they're giving it their all still to get promotion. They definitely don't feel that dream is gone, and hopefully they can kick on from here. But Ashford were the last team that Norwich beat before these 2 wins in 2025, and obviously last season they were the team who denied Norwich an unbeaten season. So the fact that we've done the double over them and scored 13 goals past them, 13 goals I think past them this season, just shows how ruthless we've been. So yeah, Norwich City women are definitely on the up.
Yeah, quite a big week for the academy. Obviously Norwich played in the FA Youth Cup this week, which is a very, very well-known competition, of course. They played Bournemouth away on Wednesday evening. A very tough game expected. Obviously, Bournemouth are a Category 2 academy. Norwich are a Category 1 academy. But I don't think there'll be too much quality difference between it. Maybe Elliot Miles probably come down to the team and might maybe boost that for Norwich, which would be brilliant. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, Bournemouth are currently second in their Category 2 division, whereas Norwich are 10th out of 14th teams. But I think they play better than their 10th place position suggests, going at a point a game in the league as well. So it'd be a very good game, I think. Obviously, Norwich, although they got through against Brentford 4-3 in the FA Youth Cup third round at Carrow Road, Elliot Miles was bringing that game, obviously, with Sean City obviously as well. So that was all fantastic, but they were a bit too open at times. I think maybe the Carrow Road pitch being so big was probably maybe made them a bit, I wouldn't say unsettled, but probably a bit more cautious of a defensive structure, because obviously the pitch fields are probably a bit bigger and there's more ground to cover, meaning maybe their positioning might be a bit off at times. But I think if they go to Bournemouth and are better defensively and a bit more regimented as a defensive group, whilst they show their quality from last run, they hopefully should get through. If they do get through, they'll either play Stoke City or West Brom at home at Carrow Road again in the next one of the Youth Cup. So there starts to be a real opportunity for Norwich if they win against Bournemouth and either the next round as well. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but there's a real chance for Norwich to have a very, very good Youth Cup run. Obviously, that famous one 10 years, no, I think now probably 11 years ago, is obviously very, very much on the mind of people, as that is quite well known. But definitely nice for the team to be involved in the Youth Cup. They're playing well, and hopefully it does come through, obviously, as well. Some news today, Lucien Mahuvis on a new deal as well. Fantastic news. Obviously, he was involved with the first team squad against Brighton. Probably the best player for 21 this season, so consistent. I probably do see him as like maybe a Calendar, maybe long-term replacement, in the sense that he can play as that maybe hybrid left back and centre back. He can invert midfield as well, but also as well, he can play as that high wide left back as well. So he's got quite a lot of variety to his game, and he can also play midfield as well. So there's a lot of nice thoughts from Ben Napper actually about Lucien as well, saying about how much he rates his potential as well. So that is very, very encouraging. I'd probably expect maybe Lucien to be more involved in pre-season next year for the 21. No, sorry, for the first team. Then we'll see maybe if he goes out on loan or with the first team. But I think due to maybe Calendar go back out on go back to Man City probably next summer, then I think there's a real chance for Lucien to really try and forge himself into the team. But obviously as well, we were here last year with Jaime Montoya as well. So who knows how that situation is going to plan out. But very, very excited about Lucien. I think he's got fantastic potential. He's got fantastic ball playing qualities in deep areas. So good on the ball, and I think he suits JHG's style brilliantly, and a very, very good fee which Norwich got from him in the end as well. And obviously, me and Jack actually have recorded a video about Norwich's youth pathway as our big question. So hopefully, you guys can watch that as well. I think it's going to be out Wednesday, if I'm right.
Wednesday at midday, if YouTube behaves itself. Yes, keep an eye out for that. You'll see Will and I, no Henry, but yes, we go through the youth pathway. No spoilers, obviously, right now. So keep an eye out for that. So to conclude, if you're still watching this, by the way, comment down below saying I love quickfire hot takes. I want to experiment something. So traditionally, I come up with the quickfire hot takes. However, it's just not been my week. I haven't really come up with any. Will, have you got any?
I've got 5 for you, lads. Henry's face
Yes.
is so excited.
The torch has been passed.
Right.
I'm no longer the quickfire king. Will Grant himself has made 5 quickfire hot takes, which is absolutely allowed. Other people are allowed to do it. It's just it's just my idea. So Will, come on then, hit us with 5.
I've been thinking about these questions all season, so I'm finally so grateful and honoured to really be communicating these to you guys. You're going to have an absolute whale of a 10 minutes, so bear with me. Right, the first question, can I answer, by the way, as well, at the end?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, let's go for it. Okay, what is one thing you would change about the FA Cup?
Bring back replays.
Yeah, that was my instinct. Is bring back replays. I think if I'm going to be different to Henry, I think scrap extra time and just take it straight to penalties. I think if your logic is don't have replays because we don't want to wear out the players, why make them play a potential extra 30 minutes on top of it? Just take it to penalties. I think even as like a fan in the stadium, do you want to sit through another half an hour where the teams are going to be cagey and not want to put their neck on the line and probably, already be thinking about penalties? Again, this is not very quick fire, but there we go. I would scrap extra time.
Right, so my love with the broadcast schedule in this country. I would abolish Thursday night kickoffs at 8 p.m. and even Monday night kickoffs at 8 p.m. Jack, load it up. What is the thing we see right now in our lives?
Yeah, there we
Thank
go.
you very much. It's utter woke nonsense. Those poor Peterborough fans. What an away day. You get Everton in the cup, but you find out it's on a Thursday at 7:45. Oh, that is so dreadful. Yeah, definitely for me. I want most of the games at 3 p.m. Obviously, you want to give the lower league teams some exposure, so obviously televise them. But at a decent time, please. Thursday at 8 p.m. is just absolutely rancid.
Just a quick one as well about the FA Cup. I don't think the semi-final should be played at Wembley. Save Wembley for the final and go back to how it used to be and have another neutral venue for the FA Cup semi-final.
But where would you play it?
Why not pick grounds from a hat? Why not?
Like Trafford Park, for example.
Why not get all the grounds maybe over 30,000, put them into a hat, get Rod Stewart to pick them out, and then why not do that?
Or depending on where the teams are, try and figure it out geographically. It doesn't make sense that someone like Manchester United and Manchester City would have to go to Wembley, give them a Villa Park. If we were to play them lot down the road, yellow card, we should play it at the Western Homes Community Stadium in Colchester. That's as near, or Roots Hall down the road. That would be absolutely perfect for me.
Or even the London Stadium.
Yeah, it's less fun though. It's not a very good stadium. It's not quite the Western Homes Community Stadium. Now, come on. Okay, that was question one. Question two.
Yeah, I just want to say, unfortunately, I don't think Roots Hall or Colchester's ground or even Wroxham's ground, Trafford Park, meets the 30,000 capacity regulations. But hopefully one day it gets some regeneration. But anyway, next question. I want to ask you for the worst train company in England.
Oh God. Well, actually, you asked me this yesterday, and I said Greater Anglia because it is Greater Anglia because they seem to constantly be doing rail replacements and engineering works, and it never seems to be fixed. It's like a constantly broken track. It's a really nonsensical system. I think you should build a train line from Southend to Chelmsford directly, so that then I can get to Norwich quicker. That's just a very specific request from me to build a new train line, but I think you should do it at Greater Anglia.
I think I'll probably have to go with Greater Anglia just because I'm used to Greater Anglia trains. I think objectively, Southern Rail is probably worse, and I've only been on one Avanti West Coast train, so I can't really pass judgment on those two. So that's why, by proxy, I sort of have to go with Greater Anglia, really.
Cheers, guys. So that is no sponsors for Greater Anglia coming up, but I'm going to have to put some hate to East Midlands Railway. So I'll explain why. I think Jack knows slightly my reasons for this, but I've got a few reasons. So the East Midlands Railway, you get about a 2-carriage train. So you go from Norwich to Manchester on a 2-carriage. Just for context, I get double the amount of carriages going to Sheringham. So that is quite some thought. The trains are a bit manky. You get about 4 tables per carriage. Like the phone chargers, they're a bit out of date. So if you've got one of those new, I think it's those USB-C iPhone chargers, that thing won't work because they've got these 1980s phone charging leads in there. So that is absolutely horrendous news. But shocking train prices as well. And I think I saw Peter Blakesy actually going to an away game. I think it was actually in Derby, and he was moaning about the congestion and the amount of passengers actually on an East Midlands Railway train. And I can only presume that train had less than 4 carriages as well. So East Midlands Railways, yeah, in Clive Tilsley's words, or anyone's words, not for me, Clive. Next one.
Next one, go on.
Lovely. Right. So I'm going to paint you a picture for this next one. Norwich have a fantastic season. They get promoted next year. They go in the Premier League. They go, what better? We're in Europe. And it's absolutely fantastic. Mateo Jurisic is hailed as the next coming of Jesus Christ. And life's good. But I want to know, in Europe, what are your 3 countries which you'd like to see Norwich play in Europe?
Henry, you go.
What are the 3 countries? Did you say?
Yeah, all teams, mate, all teams.
Slovan Bratislava, just because that's quite a hipster tie, and Bratislava's a really nice city, so I'd probably pick that.
Slovakia?
Yeah.
All right, I'm with you.
One of the old firm clubs, just because I think Celtic for a European game could be insane. So actually, I know it's boring, but I picked Glasgow as well. I think as well, if I had to pick a third, probably Fiorentina, just because Florence is a nice city.
Probably Genoa, because I think it's the Amalfi Coast in Italy. It's one of the most beautiful bits of scenery in Europe. I think Braga would be quite cool to go to. I can't remember the name of the stadium, but the one with the cliff on the side. That is, that is elite European heritage. And then you've got to go for like a really obscure one, like somewhere in Belarus or Liechtenstein. I think Norwich away in Liechtenstein would be absolutely amazing. I think you can rent the country of Liechtenstein for something like $75,000. I think Snoop Dogg did it once for a day. That's how silly that little European country is. Apologies if there's anyone from Liechtenstein watching this podcast. I'm sure you're not. But away down Liechtenstein.
I'll tell you who the worst team to get is in European football, the New Saints, because they're playing their European games at Shrewsbury.
Oh, that is a horrific hell. Yeah, that's not good. Anyway, my 3 countries, I agree with you, Henry, but I think I prefer to go to Ibrox because I've already been to Celtic Park or Parkhead in a pre-season friendly, so I want to go to Ibrox. It just looks fantastic on a European night. As well, sticking with the theme of Portugal, maybe Porto as well. I reckon maybe cheap booze as well. Have a few before the game as well. So that is fantastic. And I reckon Portugal is a absolutely divine country. And I'm with you as well, Jack. I would love to see Norwich playing Kazakhstan in the freezing cold, -10, plane prices, a lot amount of money, but it's for the culture. It's bucket list thing, so absolutely, why not? Anyway, my next question to you is, I don't know if Jack has done this one, but I don't think he has, so I put it down. What manager, worldwide or domestically, were you convinced that Norwich would get, but never got?
Oh, I haven't done that one. Henry, you go.
No,
I've got one, by the way. If you want to,
don't
if
know. I thought we'd have one of the Brexit managers at some point, whether it was Sam Allardyce, Neil Warnock, or Tony Pulis. I thought we'd at least have one of them. I think probably after he left Stoke and after and just before we got Alex Neil, I thought we would probably get Tony Pulis. So yeah, that's who I'd go for.
So I've got 2 on the opposite ends of the spectrum. I think in that kind of Alex Neil 2016 Premier League campaign, there was a part of my brain that convinced myself that Roy Hodgson would save all of our problems. And there's always been this story that Delia Smith and Roy Hodgson are really good friends. So you always thought it's going to happen at some point. If it turned out that we sacked Torrup tomorrow and appointed Roy Hodgson, I think I might just jump in the Thames. I That would just be hilarious. But no, the other one who was linked to Norwich for absolutely donkey's years and never worked out, Kjetil Knutsen. Is that the one you're thinking of? Yeah,
That was one of them. Yeah,
beautiful quiff, Norwegian league. Was linked to Burnley and all these various different teams. Was the kind of Torup-esque manager that we all thought we were going to get. Who knows? Maybe if we'd have appointed him instead of Dean Smith, we would be in the Premier League and going to Liechtenstein. But alas, no. We're going to Bramall Lane in Elland Road.
Yeah, so I'm going to take your minds back to our Premier League years about a decade ago, probably 2012, and I was just randomly in a vet. So obviously my dog, I don't think was feeling too well, maybe, or just having some injections. And I think I read like the local newspaper or any newspaper, and I think I saw like an article, and there was like the betting odds, and I saw some interesting names. Obviously, your English names like Big Sam, Brexit Pulis, of course. And then you have those names, and then I just saw Ralph Rangnick on there, and I don't know why, but it felt like for 2 years, Rangnick was always like in like the bookies when Paul Lambert maybe left or someone like that, and it was a very left field approach. And for me, before Rangnick went to Man United, it always felt like he was linked with every club in England, but like obviously he never joined. And I swear I saw when I was about 8 or 9, or maybe it was just my eyes deceiving me. I swear I thought I saw Ralph Rangnick appear on the paper in like the betting odds. So that is my one.
I thought you were going to say, I swear I saw Rangnick in Riverside Morrison's.
That would be so. Do you know what? That announcement video would be so cold, and I'd be all for that.
Why has a player not been announced?
Yeah, why haven't Norwich announced a player in Morrison's yet?
Yeah. Can I ask you a question though? Like, do you put them on like the cash out area bit in a bakery, like doing like handling the fish? Where do you put them in the supermarket?
No, car park. They're just in the car park. They're just like trying to find their car. When you got their key and they're like, yeah. And someone's like, "Hey, are you Fabio Quagliarella?" And it's like, "Yes, I am Fabio. I am here at Norwich." Like, dream if it was 2014. Alas, it's 2025 and we're all old and haggard. But there we go. Was that your final one, or do you have one more?
I've got one more. Personally, I think this is my best one yet.
Okay. If you could summarize the Norwich City Wi-Fi as one former player or one maybe present player, what player would you use to describe the Norwich City Wi-Fi in a minute? Oh, yeah, silence. As in the MyFootballWriter panelists Wi-Fi or the Wi-Fi at the stadium?
Yeah, you can also use my Wi-Fi if you want to just discriminate. If you just want to like take them Academy as well, that's absolutely fine. But I thought that's Norwich City Wi-Fi.
Louis Thompson. You think it's going to be fantastic, and then it's broken all the time.
Oh, that's fantastic. Early shot.
I'll sort of go down similar lines. If it was your Wi-Fi, Will, it would be Marley Watkins. But I think the Norwich Wi-Fi is Matt Jarvis.
Oh. Any reason behind that, Henry?
Well, I think sort of similar to what Jack was saying. I think in terms of the Norwich Wi-Fi, sometimes it can be really good, like Matt Jarvis, but that's only once in a blue moon, and then the rest of the time it dies out. Like the one game he had, I think it was against Bournemouth or West Brom or someone like that. And then, your Wi-Fi seems to be constantly at a level, Will, where it just doesn't accept you for whatever reason, and it's just constantly awful. So, hence Marley Watkins.
So, I'm going to use your similar rationale, Henry, about my crap Wi-Fi and just the Wi-Fi in general, and just someone that is just has always just been completely turds, for example. And I just think Marcel Franke, sorry if any of his fans or friends or family are watching, but I'm gonna come from a different angle here, and I'm gonna go for Liam Gibbs when Wagner tried him as a striker. Like, you'd always be so desperate, so like maybe you like text your friends or check One Football or anything like that, and then you constantly try it. You're hoping for a solution, but it just never worked, and it would just always fail. And unfortunately, obviously, Liam Gibbs has got no goals as a striker in his Norwich career. Such a shock that is. Hopefully, one comes soon. But I do like Liam Gibbs in midfield. I always thought it was a great six under Big Dino, but I just think Percy, Wagner using Gibbs as a striker, I think that summarizes Norwich City's free Wi-Fi brilliantly. Despite them saying, I think it can hold up to 30,000 or 20,000 people on a server, which is just a complete. Don't swear, Jack. Your turn.
Well, no, yeah. Well, there you have it. EMR, Liam Gibbs as Wi-Fi, and Liechtenstein. If that's not nonsense, I don't know what is. This podcast has probably been the longest podcast in our history. So if you are still at the end, again, comment saying I love quickfire hot takes. Thank you, Will, for your contribution. Obviously, thank you for all of your youth insights. Thank you, Henry, for all of your insights on the women's team and your insights throughout this fantastically long podcast. This has been episode 28. We're still going. On to Sheffield United and Leeds. Yay. See you later.